Sometimes life's about taking risks. Sometimes life's about buying machetes off eBay from Thailand at 3 in the morning because you've had a little bit too much to drink. Brothers and sisters, this is the eBay Thai Parang. It may just be one of the best budget choppers money can buy. Let's get into it. First off, a very merry Halloween. It is literally Halloween, the only time of year where it is legally acceptable to answer the door to children knocking with a machete in your hand. So what a perfect time for a review. This is the Parang Rambo hunting knife machete 12.5-inch blade handmade forged bamboo handle. Rolls off the tongue. First off, this is a handmade blade, so your mileage may vary. The seller is a store called Anbo 17. I'm presuming he makes these machetes in Thailand. I don't really know. There's not a lot of information about them at all. The blade is listed as SUP9, which is the equivalent to 5160, and that's a steel I've only ever had good results with. It takes an edge pretty well. It's extremely tough. It's a little soft, but that's not the worst thing in a machete. Overall, pretty good steel. It's listed as around 55 HRC, which I believe it's an eBay description. It's hard to tell. The handle is bamboo root, which looks really cool. It's actually surprisingly nice for a handle material. I'm not sure how well it's going to hold up over time. We'll have to wait and see. This is a traditional style parang with a rat tail tang epoxied into a stainless steel bolster. Now, before any of you hardcore survivalists come at me in the comments talking about how anything less than a doubly thick extended full tang is going to shatter the first time you do feather sticks, let me explain the few key benefits to a rat tail tang in a chopper like this. Firstly, the reason you do this more often than not is because it's really easy to repair the handle if it cracks or breaks. However, the other biggest benefit is with a rat tail tang, the weight shifts forward, which is really good for chopping. Besides all that, this machete is plenty tough enough, at least with what I put it through. I beat the hell out of this thing. I chopped hardwoods, I split twisted pine logs that were more knot than wood, and then all of the footage was corrupted. So after chopping up a bunch of wood that was more knot than wood and losing the footage, I decided I'd do it again, but with worse wood, because I'm done. Instead of twisted knotted pine, I decided I would baton through twisted knotted blue gum, which is way stringier and way harder and way more stupid. Now, obviously, any blade or axe is going to struggle with a piece of wood like this, but this thing went through it with very little issues. The blade was fine. The shock in the handle was pretty good, especially for basically hitting what felt like a rock. So batoning through softer wood, even larger pieces, was a breeze for this thing. This blade has a crazy distal taper. It's nearly a centimetre thick by the handle. It's a big piece of steel. So that thickness at the end really helps it just glide through when batoning. Chopping thinner pieces of wood or branches was almost effortless. Like, you could basically just drop this thing on most things and it would cut them really easily with almost zero effort. The parang came pretty sharp. It had a sort of toothy burr to it, but all up it was far better than what I'd expect for a blade at this price point. I took about 10 minutes to run it over some sandpaper over a mouse pad and a bit of stropping, and it got razor sharp really quickly. And just with a little bit of effort, this thing was actually a really fantastic fine carver and feather sticker. It was pretty surprising, actually. The grind on this is really well done. It's nicely convexed, and this might be the best machete in my collection for getting unstuck after chopping. One of my biggest pet peeves about using a machete to chop is how easily the blade gets stuck in the wood, and with this thing, it slid right out every time with very little effort. And with this belly, you can kind of rock it and just pop it right out of the wood. It's really nice. For finer carving, it's a little unwieldy. It does have a nice choil section, but it was just a little too front heavy to do sort of stock removal, carving tent pegs and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I lost that footage. It's certainly capable of it, but it was a little tougher than I would like for that purpose, at least. In terms of design, this thing is insanely well thought out. The balance is phenomenal. Like, it's nimble enough holding the choil, but even choking back, it's got a really good balance point, and it feels surprisingly light for how thick and heavy this blade is. The choil is a really nice size, even for people like me that have bigger hands. I can comfortably get my whole hand behind it, which allows for really nice push cuts, and it's pretty maneuverable. It has a crisp spine for shaving wood or striking fire steels, but the curve is also comfortable enough to use it as a draw knife, something I also lost footage of, unfortunately. The handle is long enough for quite a large amount of grips, and the end is really nice. There's no hot spots. The shock was really good. I only really felt it when batoning through the harder wood, but that's to be expected. My only complaint with this handle is it's pretty circular, and when doing faster chops, it was quite hard to get edge alignment if you got a little too careless, especially working longer and getting sweatier hands. The grip up here is like polished. I'm not sure how they've finished it, but it's a little slick, whereas this section here with the bumps and ridges has a bit more grip. If you like a lanyard, you're also kind of out of luck with this handle. There's no place to put one. I would be tempted to drill a hole, but I'm not really sure how this material is going to react, and I don't really want to risk splitting or cracking it. A lanyard's not that important to me. So for the trade-off, it doesn't really seem worth the risk of damaging the handle. The fit and finish is surprisingly good for how much this thing cost. My biggest sort of complaint, and again, your mileage may vary, handmade blades, is that my handle is quite offset from the blade. It's probably about 60% further to this side than it is to that side, which is fine. There's no problems with it or anything, and it is straight once you hold it. It's just sort of might take some getting used to, or if you're left-handed, if you get one that's weirdly aligned, it may cause you some problems. The other thing is that it does not come with a sheath. Again, I wouldn't expect one for this price. I intend to just make one, although I'll probably do Kydex for this, and it is going to be difficult because of this bolster. It's perfectly circular, so there's not a lot of handle retention, but I'm sure I can figure out something to make it work. The best tasks for this are light to heavy chopping. It performs really well at that. It blasts through hardwood. It's easy to get unstuck. It's surprisingly good for fine carving and close-up work. It's maneuverable enough that you can use the tip. I would say it's probably not as good at clearing or block removal type chopping of carving, and that's mainly just due to arm fatigue and sort of strain over time, but it's perfectly capable of doing that if you need it to. But by far the biggest and best thing about this thing is the price. It's 45 US dollars, which is incredible for what you get. It cost me just under 80 US dollars shipped. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for you, depending on where you live and what sort of taxes you're going to pay. But overall, this is a steal at that price. This might be one of the best budget choppers you can buy right now, if you can still get them, depending on when you watch this. Overall, this is an A-class machete as far as I'm concerned. This is really well designed, it's light in the hand, it's comfortable, it's versatile, you can do a lot of stuff with it, and it's kind of just cool, to be honest. Like, I brought it thinking that even if it was kind of shit, like, at least it would look nice. But it does work too, and it's definitely held up, so that is a massive plus.